Ladies and gentlemen, ballers of the world, let's have a little bit of a workshop. Hello, what's going on, guys? It's Preacher, and we're doing another workshop today, and that's right. And I turned all the settings into something I would like to call junk, trash. That's right, I've turned them all into absolute crap for the pure and simple reason is that it seems to help. No other reason other than that. So a big holler to you, and we'll shine it up real nice, and we'll throw a fucking bro fist out to you ballers out there who are joining me on a Sunday evening. All 80 of you at the moment are joining me for a little bit of a workshop where we're going to look at various different ways of improving our play. The whole point of the workshop is literally for you guys to send me a video of you playing. That's it. Really, really easy. Just send me a picture of you guys playing. Now, some of you are asking, how the hell do we do that? Very easiest way is to use a program like Fraps. It's going to run you about $10, $15. Very, very cheap. And then you can use your own inbuilt video editing software that comes with Windows, it comes with Macs, comes with all that stuff, and then upload it to YouTube for free. So for $10 to $15, doesn't go to me, it goes to the lovely people at Fraps. You can send me a little copy of you playing. And from there we can actually see and try and solve the little errors that we can't really fix by simply regemming, reforging, and picking the right talents and all that stuff. Awesome. So before we get started, you will notice that throughout this, I will be wearing the biggest shirt in the history of mankind. That's right, this shirt is so big it scares the hell out of me. Let me show you. Look at this shirt. It goes down past my knees and spreads all the way out there because there's nothing better than a lovely, fresh, brand new shirt. Unfortunately, when I went to pick a shirt this morning, I didn't have any clean ones. Why? Because Emma's not here to sort out my shirts. Sad face, I spots a pack of fresh, new, lovely shirts that I could put on and have a really, really happy day with. And unfortunately, those shirts were bought by my mother. Yes, even at my age, my mother still buys me some nice, lovely clothes. And those clothes are far too big for my bad self, which I took as a compliment that she thought I was fatter than I actually am. I'm actually pretty smooth, baby. So thanks to her and thanks to my mother. Another announcement is Ghosty is in the chat. He is joining us. It brings out my you guys. It brings out my lovely bright blue eyes. My eyes are apparently one of my best features. In fact, my best feature, according to the ladies out there who love a man with really quick fingers who plays a really good game of Warcraft or Starcraft or whatever it might be. It's actually my eyelashes, which you won't be able to see due to our horrendous streaming quality. But my eyelashes are very, very sexy, and women often ask me, do I use some sort of makeup? This is very frustrating, but I will allow this because he is a hero. We're connecting to the Dominican Republic. We're going live to camera 2 over in the Dominican Republic. Say hello to the ballers. Give them a holler. Right, fuck off now. Had enough. So as we're doing a workshop, we don't care about friends like that. No way. We're talking about playing World of Warcraft and having some good fun with it. I'm even enjoying myself a can of Monster while the ladies are away. Awesome. So I'm going to create a video and put it on the YouTube channel, which you should know because it's that one there, of how you can submit to me a video of you guys playing. Now you're asking yourselves, does the workshop work? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I have a success story, and we've only done this once, which is awesome. Flem, who we did the initial World of Warcraft trial on, actually sent me the footage of how he played after the initial workshop. So I'm going to show you this very quickly. Now you might remember Flem was an assassination rogue, which of course is one of the weakest specs in the rogue arsenal now. So subtlety and combat are all superior. However, Flem was languishing down at 17th in DPS. So we went through his gameplay and we looked for some little tricks and all that kind of stuff to how he can improve his play. Because it wasn't anything to do with his gearing, his gemming, his weapons, his poisons, anything like that. It was all basic play. So if we jump into this, we're going to show Flem a little bit. He's going to get in there and he's picked up some various little things that's all really cool. And we're going to skip to the end. I don't want to dwell on this too much, but we can see towards the end of this when that little bottom bar disappears. Bye bye bye. You can see Flem is pulling a nice respectable around 23 to 24k DPS. Oh, Paulie PJ, you absolute legend, sending me that in and letting me know that everything is gravy with your play. Really cool. And Flem's going to go ahead and he's going to finish up round about, I think he came 8th on the DPS. So he went from 17th to 8th on the DPS. We can't ask for more than that, can we, guys? Yeah! 17th to 8th, so it does work. Now, it wasn't a case of going from 17th to 8th is what I found really cool. In fact, on the email where Flem sent me his review of how he played, he did what's most important, a self-review. He knew where he could generate much better DPS. He actually suggested the things I would have suggested to me. He said, Preach, I played through and now I look back and I know I need to be doing this, I need to be doing that. We actually sort of opened his eyes to what he should be looking for, which is cool. That's exactly what we're after. We want you guys to learn how to increase your DPS naturally. The aim of the channel, as always, is to bring you to the level where you can be happy with your class and then start to recognize how we push up that little bit. Because knowing our class, let's say this is the top world DPS, knowing our class will get us to about here. But this gap here is really, really tricky. That's the tricky part. It's just getting this bit, and I will open your eyes on how you can start picking up on that. And that's exactly what we're aiming to do today. Cool. Couple of things. Next week is the True Unusual web show. Woo! Ghosty should be back from the Dominican Republic, hopefully, and then we can have our big usual live web show. And I'm looking forward to talking to him. We miss him like hell, don't we, guys? We miss Ghosty, we miss his props, and all that good stuff. It's all been a bit serious recently. We've been talking about yesterday's show where we had a solid 260 people throughout most of the show who listened into how I destroyed guilds and things like that. To open your eyes again as to how things work in World of Warcraft when it talks about management and all that kind of stuff. So we did that yesterday and that was a brilliant show. Lots of people excited and watched that. And I got great feedback today from people who said, you know what, Preachy? And this was brilliant. This was really fantastic. These people were like, Preachy, I've actually done that, and it was kind of weird to see that other people do that because I felt like a total ass when I was doing these things. And then they said to me, you've kind of opened my eyes to the fact that what I was doing was pretty shitty, and going forward I'm going to hopefully change that. As I did, I changed my ways, and now I'm here talking to you guys and doing all that kind of gravy good stuff. So tune in for the web show next week. It will be on Saturday, so it's only 6 days away. Woo! 6 days away, live web show. Ghosty should be on that show. And please send me your bro fists. Send me your bro fists from around the world at preachgaming@gmail.com. That would be awesome. So today's show, what are we going to be looking at today? Interesting email that came in from a chap who's playing a Protection Warrior, and as soon as I saw a video of a Protection Warrior, you know my lovely, gorgeous blue eyes lit up like the moon. I was really looking forward to that. And I watched his play. Now, our Prot Warrior had watched my guide, and he was very interested in improving his mobility. And the video he sent in was of Warmaster Blackhorn, which, as we know, isn't a particularly difficult fight anyway, okay? But now he was on farm. It's a normal mode clear in a 10-man raid, and the boss has been killed several times before, maybe even once before, but it had been killed before by the same group of people. So he's very much a case of trying to push his own play forward, and he was talking in his email about mobility. So I sat down and I watched the videos, as I do. Everybody who sent me a video, I have watched them, and maybe even tonight we'll get to look at a Fire Mage video as well, depending on time. I do have things to do tomorrow, so we'll see how the show goes. So he sent me this video and I watched it. Now, interestingly enough, there was nothing wrong with his play. Straight up going to say it, and you're thinking, well, why the hell are we featuring this on a workshop, Preachy, if there's nothing wrong with his play? It brought me on to something that is so much more powerful about being a tank, and why I love the tank class so much. It was an aspect of tanking that we take for granted, and then we don't really see the bigger picture of what we're doing as a tank, because we're constantly pushing our own personal play. You will be doing it, I've done it in the past, is we just think about ourselves. We put ourselves, as I like to say, in the little box of being this DPSer who's just thinking about how I can improve. How can I do more DPS? How can I tank better? I think I could use my spells more effectively. But you do get to the stage rather quickly, guys, where you're very comfortable with your rotation, and pushing your personal play in terms of your spells and stuff actually becomes quite a limiting factor, because you're not looking at everything else that's happening outside the box. And this was a brilliant example of this. This is why I decided to feature this one, because it shows all that stuff, and it's a really exciting for me, and hopefully by the end of the show you will realise why I think it's exciting, is that we can look at these various things. Now, we're not going to look at them too in depth, a little bit in depth, but we're going to set some sort of ground rules of how we can improve our play for the raid. And tanks have this amazing responsibility, guys. Such a crazy responsibility of actually taking care of the raid as a whole. It's something we really don't think about as an early tank, especially if we started within the last 2 years. It's not something we instantly pick up on, especially if we've not really played other roles like being a healer, being a DPS, all that kind of stuff. We've not really started to think about the big picture, which is, hey, I'm actually fully affecting the DPS of the raid. I'm actually affecting the healing of the raid. And I'm not working well enough with my partner, because there's usually 2 tanks, so I'm not really doing that. And this is the best way of improving the play for this chap. He was interested in his mobility. Maybe I'm not hitting shield slam enough, but he never had any threat issues. And if you're not having threat issues, don't worry about that kind of stuff. Unless you're trying to do some sort of DPS tanking build, but I've never really agreed with that anyway. Your DPSs are more than enough. Blizzard balances around a tank doing around about 10, 16k DPS. The rate they expect the DPSs to be the ones pushing it to the limit. So this was a really great example of this. I'm just going to power this bad boy up. Oh! Now this one didn't come through with any sound for some reason. It did on the YouTube video that I actually grabbed, because I'm able to download your YouTube videos. Sneaky, I know. But the sound didn't come through, so I assume it's something to do with the file format it was in and all that kind of stuff. But whatever, we're going to cope. We're going to be looking at Zakur. So I'm going to show you quickly his in-game stuff. Here is Zakur. He's wearing some obviously nice blue Judgment gear. We've all seen this before, this rip-off Judgment gear, but of course Judgment gear looks badass. I think it's very, very important that tanks understand exactly how cool Judgment gear was. In fact, some of us might even say that Judgment gear was the best set ever made, especially if our name is Ghosty. Am I right, players? Am I right? So, getting back into this game, let's have a quick look. So looking at the UI, as always, is the first thing we do, because we want to understand what the hell we're looking at. So Zakur has gone ahead and he's put focus target right here on his paladin tank friend. He's given him a nice big focus target so he can make sure his vigilance is on and see any debuffs and stuff that's on his partner tank. Very important thing to do for tanks is to make sure you know what the hell is going on with your partner and make sure that if they get any serious debuffs or get into any serious trouble, we can see that straight away. I would make a comment that we've got like 2 unit frames showing the raid here. You can turn this off in Xpearl. This is Xpearl unit frames, by the way, if you guys are interested in his UI. That's expert unit frames. But you can in fact turn that off. Other than that, we've got him, we've got his target, a really nice UI. In fact, I think it's actually pretty cool. Pretty cool. And over here we've got just these normal grid style uniframes. This raid DPS window, do you guys really like this window? Let me turn off that. You think that's funny? But seriously, do you think that guy is cool, that raid DPS window? I want to hear your thoughts in the chat. Do you think seeing the raid DPS as a figure is something you want to be looking at as a tank? I don't think so. I've never really thought of why that would be cool. It's really nice to see when we Bloodlust and they get some stupidly high number on that. But overall, I don't think it's relevant to UI. It just seems to be unnecessary memory space for me, really, just to be showing that on the UI. Well, whatever, that's my opinion. You guys can look at it all you want. I don't mind. You do what you want. So we've got Zakur. We're going to play the first few seconds. Now again, this is normal mode. Everything's looking pretty swish. We've got a nice group set up, very varied. Only 2 pallies, that's only the repeat classes in there. No mage, sad face. But other than that, his UI is really sweet. I especially like the way his boss frames are set out. So you can see there's a record kill there. They've done it before. And this is nice and clear as a tank to see what's going on. I think it's pretty cool. I don't see any big deals at all with this UI. As mentioned, there's not really a target of target. I do like that for a tank. But as a tank who hasn't got any threat issues, which our friend obviously hasn't, Zakur hasn't got any threat issues whatsoever. It's a hell of a good point to bring up about target of target. For me personally as a tank, I absolutely love target of target. I think it's fantastic. And in fact, in Star Wars The Old Republic, where was my target of target when tanking was actually really difficult? Tanking World of Warcraft in terms of threat isn't difficult at all. Let's face facts, it's not. You shouldn't be having threat issues. And realistically, you can live without it in World of Warcraft. You really can, especially when your grid is set up in such a way. Let me jump back in here. As you can see, its grid is set up in such a way as you can see who has aggro. You have to be a little bit careful on fights like this because the Drakes have aggro on people, stuff like that. But other than that, everything's pretty cool. Let's continue on. Now, you can see the basics are going on. The tank and his paladin tank friend are tanking the mobs right next to each other, which I think is pretty cool. One thing I will stress is I actually thought the paladin tank here was a little bit, if not quite a lot worse than Zakal. I don't know if Zakal is in the chat. If you are, my friend, can you tell me, is your paladin tank new or is he old school or whatever? Purely because I noticed a heavy use of Hammer of the Righteous. Hammer of the Righteous, when you're only single target DPS, is worse. Single target tanking, I should say. It's just worse. He's not. That cleave is really not worthwhile. So I was just interesting question for me. Just wanted to know that. I do notice some things later in the fight which made me question the ability of the other paladin tank, but no big deal. Let's carry on. So they're tanking them next to each other, tanking them in the obvious Twilight Onslaught, all good, hardly anybody's taking any damage, everything looks pretty sweet. I'm going to skip a little bit into this fight and then I'm going to go over it bit by bit, just to show some various things that I would like to comment on, and then I'm going to talk about the main subject of today is how tanks can truly affect the raid DPS. So if you guys notice anything that's happening in this fight that you're thinking, that's not cool. As you can see, Zakal is doing charges and concussion blows on the sappers. Perfect. Absolutely crisp play, exactly how a warrior should be. He's grabbing aggro on his target. Everything's cool. They're dragging them into the onslaughts in time, spreading the damage. Everything looks really sweet. In fact, to most people, this will look like a really cool fight. We can obviously see here that the paladin tank, let me just rewind that a little sec and you'll see this go on, is coming out of the onslaught. The paladin tank drags that mob really far away. So this is where I started to question the ability of the paladin tank. Zakal did the right thing. He just moved it away very briefly, slightly out of the Twilight Onslaught, allowing the DPS to spread just that little bit more. But in this case, that's too far. Because remember, you've got to be looking after your melee DPS. And this is going to be like the main focus of today. A funny story is, I was in a guild, it was Kill Count Lost in fact, and me and Erebus, who was the other tank, were a great team. We didn't even need to speak to each other on Ventrilo. Our tank was almost completely silent in terms of what we were doing. I knew what he would be doing before he did it. The same with me. And when we trialled new tanks who were similar to this paladin tank, is just tanking. I'm just a tank. I'm in this box, I'm just tanking. I've got aggro. What more else do I need to do? You know, what else do I need to do other than just be a tank? And loads more. And that's what we're going to get into. So we're going to continue on with this. Boom, 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 boom. Paladin tank spreading those out. Melee DPS is obviously going to be start getting pissed off. They want to spread diseases. They want to be blade flurrying and all that kind of good stuff. That's what they want to be doing. So moving on, we see, oh, my friend, did you just try and click cleave? Get back into the game. There's no chance for clicking cleave in my book. Other than this, you can see he's grabbing sappers, again concussion blowing and blah 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 blah. Very basic fight, no big deal. Skipping along a little bit, we can see War Master Blackhorn is down. He's down, he's being tanked nicely, no big problems. And everything looks glorious. Okay. So, and then they go on to kill the boss. Boom! Very simple video. And you're thinking, Preacher, why the hell are you showing us this? We're now going to go through it and talk about ways of massively improving this raid. Now, this is a farm boss kill. So, in the minds of a lot of people, farm boss kills don't mean anything. When it's on farm, we just want to kill the boss as quickly as possible. A tank has this remarkable ability to literally alter the raid DPS significantly. And on this boss in particular, there's a lot of ways of doing that, and there's a lot of ways of picking up some little tricks and stuff that we've picked up earlier in the fight, and in the videos that I've done about tanking theory that apply to all the tanks really, of ways of actually doing this. And the first thing to do is consider not yourself. If you're comfortable, like Zakal is here, he's perfectly comfortable, everything's fine, he's doing what he needs to be doing. Now we need to start considering, what are the melee DPS doing? Can I make their lives easier? Huge question, guys. Massive question. How can I make the melee DPS's lives easier? One of them, of course, is tanking both mobs together. And as we see, it's actually the paladin pulling the other mob away. So we're thinking to ourselves, what the hell do we do? You chase his ass down in one instance. Not in this particular boss, and we'll get to that reason shortly. But if you've got a tank who keeps moving things away from you, you follow his ass around. That's a sign of a really good tank, is that you're making sure those guys are cleaved. Because you've got a combat rogue there. The combat rogue should be so far ahead of the DPS, it's unbelievable. Those mobs should permanently be blade flurried. What I will say about this boss is the very first thing I would do is, let's wait for it to happen. Come on, I know it's around now. I checked the times before I started. Come on. Come on, there we go. Okay, that'll do. In that instance where we're looking at there, let me go back to the game so you can see it. In this instance, it feels like this melee. There's one boss. Ooh, there we go. It feels like there's just one mob alive, and it's this one here. We think this is like the only mob alive and the only mob we need to care about. The problem with these mobs in this fight in particular, and especially in Heroic, is they charge off, don't they? They charge off and they try to stab someone in the face, they try to kill people, they go run away. What does Melee hate? Melee hates it when things are moved away from them and they can't DPS. There is nothing worse as a Melee DPS than being unable to DPS. And when these mobs charge off, Melee have this decision to make. Well, the mob will come back to me, so shall I wait? What should I do? And you as a tank think, well, I need to stay here because the Melee are here. They know it's going to happen. What you should be doing as a tank, is moving to this position. This position here, and your caster DPS should be DPSing the Drake that's down here. Tanks should get it organized so that they always tank on this ledge. What this allows to do is Melee now have this fabulous ability, and the Melee will love you till the end of time for this tanks. Trust me, is when those mobs charge away, they can then continue to DPS the Drake. Not only that, is when both mobs are together, you can actually cleave all three down and your casters can easily finish off the other one. It's a brilliant little tip, and what you'll find is your raid DPS goes up immensely. Your raid DPS goes huge because the Melee DPS aren't having to run their ass around constantly looking for something to DPS. By being the tank, you can dictate where the Melee DPS will be. As a tank, golden rule, wherever you are, the Melee DPS are with you. All the time. The Melee DPS are with you constantly wherever you are. As a tank, that means you need to be positioning mobs, doesn't matter what the fight, in a place where the Melee DPS need to move as little as possible. What will happen is instantly every Melee DPS will love it when you are in the raid, and they will moan when you're not in the raid and the other tanks aren't doing these things. They will genuinely be angry. They will go, God, I wish Zakal was here because he tanks them on the side. Or they will be saying, guys, can you tank them on the side where Zakal tanks them? Because when those mobs charge away, I have a good 5 or 6 second period of no DPS, which I could be easily tunneling into this Drake, making the whole fight significantly easy. Now you're thinking, it's only on normal mode, Preacher. What's the problem? We're going to kill it anyway. Sure, you're going to kill it, but killing it faster and more efficiently and more effectively should be the goal of every raid guild in the world. And as a tank, you have this awesome power, massive responsibility in ensuring that raid DPS is actually as high as it possibly can be, either by positioning. Always first rule number one. We did this in our advanced tank guides. Rule number one is positioning all the time. Every few seconds in your mind, you should think, where am I? Where the fuck am I? Where am I stood? How can I make this better? That's what your tanking role is all about. Where am I? You move, positioning. Where am I? Where's the boss? Again, a few seconds later, where am I? Is this position cool? Is it good? Could it be better? And then you think to yourself, well, the Melee DPS are having these downtime periods of not being able to DPS. Can I improve that? Well, yes, you can. In this fight in particular, you can. You can move your ass over to here, and now you've got 3 mobs. And when the 2 mobs charge away, they can go boom, boom. They can be charging anywhere they want to be. You can actually have the Melee DPS constantly tunneling this Drake. Caster DPS can finish off the other one, but your Melee DPS has just incredibly increased, guys. Got so much higher just with that slight movement. And no doubt this tank is glyphed for improved cleave, so he can then start improving his cleave DPS, spreading rend to 3 targets. All this kind of stuff is going to massively improve the play. As you can see from this picture, melee DPS is all here, right in the center of the ship. Only the range DPS, which in our case is a hunter, is he an Ellie? No, a hunter, a warlock, and a shadow priest. A hunter, warlock, and shadow priest are having to deal with these two big heavy mobs. Now, if you know anything about this fight, the actual melee mobs don't mean a great deal whatsoever. They don't actually mean a goddamn thing. The fight actually goes to its next phase where Blackhorn lands when the Drakes die. In Heroic, there's a huge chance the Drakes can fly away and not be DPS'd in time if the tanks aren't abusing the fact that the melee can cleave the hell out of them, okay? Very important. And when you come into this fight in Heroic, you need to be thinking this way. But I'm not just saying this for War Master Blackhorn specifically. I want you to drill into your mind as a tank positioning. Every few seconds, what is my position? Can it be better? Have I got a good spread? Because a tank has this ability. Look at the tank. The tank doesn't need to worry significantly about what buttons he's pressing. Because threat is so easy in World of Warcraft. Look at the threat meter. Just look at this threat meter, guys. Look at it. It's insane. Look at that threat. Nobody in the world is going to catch our tank on threat. Nobody in the goddamn world is going to catch that tank in threat, even if they wanted to, besides taunting, obviously. I mean, we can go ahead and start taunting mobs, but, you know, that ain't gonna happen. So, the threat is fine. All we need to be wondering about is position, 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 all the damn time. Really think about position. And we're going to see another great example of how this positioning comes into play again. So we're going to let our next mobs die. As you can see, they're not struggling with DPS. The mobs are dying well in time, but we're obviously looking to move to Heroic, where this is all going to get switched up. And I do believe that for the remainder of this fight, is we don't actually see the mobs tank together anymore at all. So we've lost not only a combat rogue cannot Blade Flurry, diseases have now become a pain in the ass for the DK, and now we've got this downtime. Look at that. What? Let's rewind that. Let's rewind that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. 5. Our positioning has just led to not only one mob being completely un-DPS'd. We've got the Elite Slayer, not DPS whatsoever, because our Paladin has moved it away, and we haven't thought, well, yeah, the Paladin's moving it away, but what I can do is go ahead and move my ass over to the Slayer and make life so much easier. And our melee DPS are now at 5 full seconds of downtime while they're waiting for this mob to come back, because they know it's going to come back. 5 seconds of DPS all the time adds up to so much wasted DPS. It really is key that we do this, okay, guys? It really is key that you just consider position all the time. So now we've gradually got the mobs gathered up together. Cool. Paladin's moved his ass over there. Perhaps something was said on Ventrilo. We don't know. Minor criticism. Really minor criticism. As a warrior, you have the ability... Your threat is non-issue on your main target, okay? Your threat is absolutely easy as hell. Threat is done with. Not a problem. When you have 2 targets next to each other and the other tank can't sunder armor, you should be just dropping 3 Devastates on the other target. Simple little tip, and then if you've got more mobs, just start spreading your Devastates around. Get those mobs sundered up, because they'll die that little bit quicker. It's only a minor criticism, I know, but what the hell, that's what I'm here for. So we'll go back in. So the mobs are dying, we've got cheese, we've got some nice charges and concussion blows. Awesome, awesome, soaking up. Really good play. Using Blood Flurry like a boss. I believe it's macro to shield slam, looking at that image. I'm pretty sure that's a macro. Only now we're starting to stack the Sunders on, but it's only when we haven't got anything else to DPS. And again, there's a Drake up here that we could have that mob up near the Drake and just helping out all the time. We can just maximize our play so much more. And this is far better than focusing on, oh, have I got the right gem in? You're talking about saving maybe 30 or 40 seconds of DPS over the entire fight. And that's going to help you so much more. So it's all good. Come on. We'll skip ahead. Skip ahead. When's Blackhorn coming? He comes in a moment. The Drake's going to die. Yeah. Okay. Now, what happens here is a little bit of confusion is about to occur is in which tank's actually picking up Blackhorn. In fact, Blackhorn lands and he's untanked for about 2 or 3 seconds until our chap goes and taunts him, and then the other tank dives on it as well, and he's like, oh, I need to get DPS as well. And we see this DPS battle go on between both tanks. Have a plan. You know this guy's coming. Have a plan. Call it out now. You've got at least a few seconds to go before he lands. It's enough time to say, I'm tanking this mob. You go and pick up the other mob. And therefore, there's no risk of anybody just being insta-gibbed. A huge problem throughout tanking is that we didn't pick it up quick enough. And the mob just goes, kaboom! Right on somebody's head. Just runs them through with a blade. All that kind of stuff. We don't like that. Let's get back in. Black Khan's coming down. Phase 2 is starting. Everything's looking sexual. Black Khan's down. And now we've taunted him. Okay. And now he goes to the Paladin. Yeah. And then it comes back to our Warrior. Yeah. Awesome. And he's still using Hammer of the Righteous. I can see the graphic. Be wary of bloodlusting that early. It doesn't really necessary. Now, this is where tanking as a team really comes into play. What we're going to spot in a moment is something that is really, really frustrating for the melee DPS, because there's a couple of things going on here that as a tank we have full control of. And we'll see some... Ooh! Chat is lagging, guys. That's Twitch. There's nothing. I'm not in control of the chat. There ain't much I can do about the chat, unfortunately, guys. It's keeping up on my screen pretty well. But yeah, there's like big chunks of chat loading and stuff like that. I can't really do much about that, unfortunately. We are looking to switch to IRC. Hopefully, that's going to help that issue out. Let's get back in. Anyway, as I was saying, getting back on point. Melee DPS need to tank DPS from behind. Okay, that is their job. Now, there's a few things going on here that really affect that. One is the giant purple orbs of death. Okay, the giant purple orbs of death are dropping all over the ship. Now, we are trying, because that is our strategy, to keep the boss in the middle. There is no realistic reason for that. When we got to... We're not going to do that to the point... How do I want to put this? If your strategy is to keep something in a certain place... That doesn't mean we need to screw over the raid in order to keep that strategy. Okay? You need to make an on-the-fly decision that involves doing what's best for the raid. If that position results in the melee DPS having to run around like assholes, then you need to change the position. Okay? Very easy. You need to be judging what's happening around you, because we don't need to watch much now. Do we? As a tank, this guy's down. We need to watch for Shockwave, and on Heroic, we need to watch Disrupting Shout. Other than that, we don't really need to do much more. So we can look around at what's going on around us. This is the brilliant advantage of being a tank, is we can actually step back. We've only got like Shield Slam, Revenge, Devastate, and then Heroic Strike. We can spam those abilities all day without even looking. It's 4 buttons. We can just spam them aimlessly. It's no big deal. If one's on cooldown, the other one will fire off. Cool. And then what we actually want to do is now just open our eyes, look around the screen. We've made a nice UI, we can see everything that's going on. Now we need to take full advantage of that. What we're going to see is, we'll see if I can show you a nice quick example. Shockwave goes off there. Now you can see Zakal is tanking here. Now I want you to notice the positions of what the hell is going on here. Look at the melee DPS. Melee DPS are all localized behind him. The boss is facing this way. Now, what is the problem here, guys? What is the huge fail that's happening here? Is look at our other tank. And this is what really made me question that the other tank probably wasn't that great. As you can see, the other tank is in a totally different position to you. If you have a situation where tank swaps are going on, your tanks should always be stood on top of each other. Always. Because the boss moves otherwise. Simple, right? It's like common sense. This stuff is like, when you break it down, you're like, oh shit, yeah. If you have a tank stood at 12 o'clock and a tank stood at 3 o'clock, when he taunts, the boss moves. Yeah? The boss is just going to go 90 degrees in another direction. 90 degrees in another direction for melee DPS is a pain in the ass. Trust me. Now, I've brought up melee DPS a hell of a lot. What are you saying about casters? Casters don't really have much of an effect on the tanking. They can DPS from all sorts of places. We don't need to worry too much about the casters. We want to worry about the melee DPS, because they will crunch. They want to just destroy this guy for you. You should make their lives as easy as possible. So we can see our Paladin tank is stood at our 3 o'clock position while we're rocking out at 6 o'clock. It's not to say that we picked the wrong position or the Paladin picked the wrong position. The problem is that both positions are different. We need to set in stone our position. We need to be stood in the right, awesome, correct position so that when the other tank taunts, the boss doesn't move a goddamn inch. Watch what happens. Is the paladin is DPSing away, he's doing his thing, he's waiting to taunt, blah blah blah. Now look at this. This is a brilliant example as the purple orb has landed and on the melee DPS. So you'll see the melee DPS scutter to the left. There you go, you see the rogues shooting to the left, other guys are moving out the way, all that stuff. But we don't move quite far enough. We move to there. Now look where the melee DPS needs to stand. Our DK is having to stand right on the side there. If this guy taunts, it could really screw up the melee DPS. The Unholy DK is probably going to be okay, but we can't see our rogue. So we will assume our rogue is actually around here somewhere. Now when this pally tank taunts, the rogue is instantly going to be in front of the boss. And the quickest way of him getting behind is going to be running through the purple stuff. So there's a couple of quite big errors going on here. Some really, really sort of big errors that are happening in this just one little scenario, real little things, and they're all easily fixable. Yes, we're trying desperately to keep this boss in a central position, so the casters and ranged and healers have all got a nice circular area around the boss. But we're fucking over the melee by doing so. If we moved 3 or 4 feet further back, or even moving, what I would really like to see is Zakal notice, crap, behind here there is no more room for the melee. I wouldn't have come this way. I would have come this way, because this ship is longer than it is wide, okay? Obvious statement of the week. So if we moved this guy this direction and moved our back to here, just come around in this circle, not only are we now closer to our paladin tank to cause less movement when the taunt switch happens, but we've also created a nice big open area here, which is brilliant. This has created so much extra space and breathing room for our melee DPS where they're not having to run around. So let's continue on. We're going to see the taunt shortly. Boom, 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 boom. Now you can see what's happened here. In order to get behind the boss, the Unholy DKs had to sit in this little tiny gap. Look at this little gap where the Unholy DKs had to go. It's absolutely insane where our melee DPS had to go. There's the taunt. Watch. There it is, there's the taunt. Now watch the melee DPS around here. What has to happen is both the melee are going to start running around. There's our DK and there's our rogue. They're having to move all the time because of the tanks. Everything that's going wrong here, and it's not major. They're still going to kill the boss, nobody's going to die. But in heroic this can be serious problems. Everything that can be fixed here can be fixed by the tanks. The tanks are causing these problems, and that's what I want to get into. It's just not thinking about position all the time. Now, of course, you're going to troll me and say, lol, lol, a purple thing landed here. Fine. Then we need to move to here. Because he's just taunted back. Let's rewind that a little touch. Bump. There's the taunt by the paladin. This purple area is now completely... This area is flooded. The last thing we want to do right now is taunt from where we are. Because the boss is going to be facing this way. The melee DPS have no room whatsoever. Sure, this thing's about to disappear. But while we're pre-planning this... My God, do we not want to force the melee DPS into this position here? Oh, that would suck. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to taunt. Watch the melee. He's actually now going to be DPSing from the front. Got a little bit lucky, I suppose, that thing disappeared. So we can... A little bit QQ about that. But again, now we're in this really crazy position where we're actually tanking with the boss facing this way. Look where the paladin is. So when the paladin taunts, we're now actually causing a full 180. An insane 180 is about to occur because the paladin is DPSing from behind. And that's not to increase his DPS by any means. When he taunts, he's going to 180 that boss in a big circle. And then the melee DPS is again going to be running around in circles. You can see the melee DPS is... This Unholy DK seems to be actually predicting this occurring. And he instantly moves around. The Unholy DK is really on the case. And there you go. Look, a full 180 of the boss has had to occur. And again, the melee are having to run around mindlessly just to make sure they're behind the boss. If I was a melee DPS in this fight, I would be screaming at the tanks. I would be going mental. Especially if I was the rogue. If I was the rogue, I'd be like, dude, you're not letting me Blade Flurry. And you're making me run around like an asshole because you just won't stand on top of each other. And again, even if it's a case of the other tank is causing these issues, the other tank is not standing in a particularly great place, then go to where the tank is. Fix the problem yourself. Blaming other people will only get you so far. Blaming other people when it's fixable by yourself gets you all the way. That's how we want to play it. And boom, boom, boom. 3, 2, 1. Come on, we've got to show the kill. Yeah, there's the kill. So, as you can see in that video, the tips really enforces this idea of position and becoming a proper partner with your tank. Very important that you become a complete partner with your tank and you're really working together to make sure things are absolutely gravy. That's what we want to see. We want to see that working all the time. So the improvements I would suggest for Zakal is, hey, don't worry about your play. Your play is fine. Your threat is through the roof. No big deal. Your issue is actually bigger than that. Your issue is something that will really take you to the next level of tanking, and that's thinking just position all the time. Position, position. That's what I wanted to reinforce for you today. Oh, and chat's loaded again. Woo! Chat. So, it's only been 40 minutes, which is cool. So I will look at the Fire Mage tonight as well, guys. You got any questions about that tanking stuff before we take a quick break, and then we'll go into the Fire Mage video? Hit me up. Hit me up, hit me up. I can't believe how much delay there is between me speaking and looking at the chat. Yeah. Good job to the Dutchies. Let me turn Skype off. Oh. Doosh. Indeed, there goes the monster. Oh, you've got a really quick stream. Cool, 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 cool. Any questions on that tanking stuff, or are you happy with that? Do you understand where I was coming from? If anybody, a Warlock, sends me a video, of course they will. No problem at all. Tanks not standing on each other makes me Kai. Good man, Harood. You're an absolute start, of course. I prefer the mission position.